Alrighty, welcome to week 1 in CIT82 Intro to Web Development. In this first attendance post, one of the things I'm excited about and a little nervous about is that I'm changing the way the course is organized a little bit. And you wouldn't know because maybe you haven't seen this course before. The chances are you haven't. But as an instructor, sometimes we get the courses set up and they run a couple of semesters, and it's like, we've kind of worked out all the kinks, so to speak. And so when we change things, it puts us sometimes back into that loop. So why am I starting with this concept? Mostly because I'm getting out of my comfort zone of the way this course was set up. Because in a technologies course, there's always things changing. And right now, as I've said in the welcome, we're in the middle of a massive change. So I'm integrating some new tools into the course. All right, so what I'm going to cover, and this is the list of things I will go over, touch upon, because what I've done now at this point is I've finished the content that you're going to work through this week, so I can kind of give you a heads up, and just really because this is your first attendance, to give you kind of how things look. So to give you the weekly schedule, what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to actually look at Canvas as you would see it. You won't see this thing at the bottom. This is because as an instructor, that's what I see. So what you can notice is your week 0 items should be checked. Well, they have to be checked off for you to get here. And really you start to see the sequential nature that you have to work through this course in order. And so now we're on attendance. You have to do a contribution, which basically means a reply. And now these contributions used to be just what I use for attendance, but I've actually increased their value. Not a huge amount, but at least enough to give students a little more, hopefully, intention when we're looking at the replies. And I'll give you what I mean by that in a minute. But in this case, once you do a reply, you'll get a check mark there, and then you'll be able to look at these items. So again, the sequential nature of this course is something you'll get used to as we move forward. Now, this week, this first week, you'll have your attendance post due the first day of the week. And then you'll have a development environment, set up your development environment. You'll have, now this, in this case, this is an assignment, and this is where you get to get used to these icons, right? So when you submit this assignment, which I will walk you through inside the assignment, that's where you submit something to me. In this assignment, this is where you have a discussion. Like I'll give you and in this case, it's a hands-on concept. Although it says current topics, it's a hands-on current topics to give you some skill. And then the last item you'll have, which is something new for me and the way I'm organizing the content, is you'll have a review. Because we're going to cover quite a few concepts from the beginning of the course all the way to this end of this first week. And so this is where using the AI tools will come in, and you'll see this when we get to that item. But notice the due dates here. All right, here's the 16th. So school starts on a Monday. The semester officially starts on a Monday. These 2 items are due on Thursday night. I grade every day. And I say that because the benefit of in the class like this of working ahead is if you miss something or you need help with something, it gives you more time to do that. And I know I sound like a teacher. That's because I am. Working ahead is really beneficial in my course because you can fix what you've gotten, what you may have needed help with or something you missed. Now, in addition, this first setup dev environment may feel a little, well, there's actually quite a bit of content. We're not going to do all of it, and you'll see because I'm going to have you set up what's called a code space for your first dev environment setup, and then in week 3 we'll change that. But really important is that when you submitted that GitHub to me, in order for you to do this step, which you couldn't do anything else until that, you have to accept the invite. So that's an important concept to understand. Okay, and then you're going to do the hands-on. Now, in this case, and I want to come back over here, because one of the things I realized after I recorded that video is I didn't talk too much about what you could use to edit, because you're going to edit a photo of you and you're going to edit a print screen, what we call a screenshot of the computer that you're going to be using. Now, in general, I find most students are using Windows. Many of them now are using Chrome or Firefox. I don't recommend Edge at this point. I don't recommend Safari if you're on the Mac. I recommend sticking with either Firefox or Chrome. Brave browser is fine as well. But you'll see why as we move forward, Chrome works well because of some built-in what we call dev tools. But you'll learn more about that and possibly, well, you will learn some in this class. But in this case, I gave you a link to free image editors because there are, if you don't have them locally, and that was my point about this item, is that when I showed it, I was actually working on my Windows environment because I actually work on a Windows, I work on a Mac, I don't work on Linux on a daily basis. I do work with Chromebooks, so I have that core in my life to where I always like to say I'm not attached to one computer platform operating system. I try to work on, I want to have the ability to work on all of them, but I know this is not true for you. So, but in general, Windows is what most popular. Macs work well for this course as well. Linux, if you have the experience, my demonstration will not come in Linux, so just keep that in mind. Although I notice most students who use Linux have a very high comfort level there. Okay, so what was I talking about? I was really talking about this free image editor because if your local system, like on the Windows side, there was a plethora, two, maybe three different programs now that come, in my case with Windows 11, that I could use to crop, right? So I take a piece that's cropping out of an image, I show that, and then you want to resize it. Those are two skills. Having taken CIT 15, I would hope that you come away with from that. I don't go over it in detail, but if you need more help, please reach out. But my point was, if you don't have something local, find something online, and I talked about which one I use. Okay, so then I talked about the benefits of working ahead. I'm going to emphasize that because many students will benefit from, help or just having another opportunity if you've missed something. So in this course, we're going to learn HTML, the beginnings of it. If you're taking CIT 85 with Mr. Gomez, you will learn that's really what that course is focused on. This is really like the broad concepts of web development. But the reason I bring it up is that one of the assignments that I think I'll probably work into week 2, but I normally do this week, is get you used to Markdown. Because HTML is a markup language. Now, there is this thing called Markdown that has a more simplified syntax and is good to learn, and we will get experience with that in this class. So I just want you to know that, when you see things, I've given you a link here to a cheat sheet. So when you want to do a heading, and you might think of, if you're used to using Word, you have like heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So this is a equivalent in the web development for Markdown, and you'll learn markup actually has an H1 tag. So just getting familiar somewhat with these different terms. And so if you hear me say Markdown, you'll know what that means. In the setup, the development environment, you'll actually copy some Markdown from a link I will give you, and you'll create a file that will help you with something really fundamental in this class, which is a Git workflow. Don't worry, it's really just a way you code and you then version control. That very common in any kind of web-based or programming-based environments. Everyone pretty much uses it. Okay. So at the end of the week, that's the new item, right? So at the end of the week, you're going to have a review. So all the content that has been created for week 0 and week 1 will be wrapped up in an AI assignment, and you'll be asked 10 random questions for seeing how well you gathered the content and have an understanding of the content that was covered this week. And this is very going to be, you'll see through the weeks. And because every week we cover a big chunk of content, that's an important thing to understand. So to get full points, and this is, I believe, where we'll end. I'm sure there was other things I wanted to talk about, but at least this gives a pointed, like, here's what you want to have a heads up about. Like I was talking about the idea of the comfort zone. Like, what's something recently you've done that has gotten you out of your comfort zone? And maybe talk about how that felt for you, right? Because I know for me, it's like both exciting because I'm excited for you to see and experience some of this new content, but I'm also a little nervous because anytime you do something new, because the idea for as an instructor is I want my course to work for you and you to spend most of your time, 99% of your time, doing the work versus trying to get it, trying to understand what I'm asking for or what you need to do to complete it. But sometimes change happens. So for you, what's something that maybe you've done lately that kind of got you out of that comfort zone? And then if you don't have anything you want to talk about, cool, just ask me a question, about any of the content covered here, because this is a great point because every week I will have an attendance post that covers like this. Here's what we're going to do this week, right? Here's the concept. So, what's a question you might have for me just having heard this level of description of the week or the content or what we're going to do or any of that. Okay, so you do that, you'll get the full point for it, and then as soon as you hit reply, that will be what's in your reply, and then you can move on to setting up your dev environment. All right, have a great week. I'm glad you're here, and let's get started.